Hi everyone. Happy Tuesday. I hope you are all having a wonderful start to your week. Welcome to Bedtime Stories with Get Your Play Online. My name is Amanda, and today we have a special guest. We have my dog Mocha, who is going to join us this evening for Bedtime Stories. I wanted to sit next to my dog Mocha because in tonight's story there is a dog named Toto who joins Dorothy on an adventure. I'll be reading The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum, retold by William Furstenberg, with pictures by W. W. Denslow. Let's see just how far we get in tonight's book. I don't know if I'm going to get through all of it tonight. I may want to save some for another reading night. So cuddle up, get under those covers if you're in bed, grab a blanket if you're sitting on a couch, grab your favorite pillow, get comfy, and let's begin the adventure, The Wizard of Oz. I just want to let you know that there's not a whole lot of pictures in tonight's book, but when there is a picture, I'll be sure to show you. Okay, here we go. We begin. Dorothy lived on a farm in Kansas with her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry. All three lived in a one-room farmhouse. In the floor of the tiny house was a trap door. It led to a deep, dark hole in the ground. This hole was their storm cellar. Do any of you have a storm cellar in your house? Great storms can come up suddenly on the flat Kansas prairie. These storms are called tornadoes. The whirling winds of a tornado can crush anything in its path. So when a tornado headed their way, the family would hide in the storm cellar for safety. Uncle Henry and Aunt Em worked hard from dawn to dark. Their lives were as sad and gray as the Kansas prairie. Dorothy's life would have been sad too were it not for Toto. Toto was a little black dog with a funny nose and bright, sparkling eyes. He made Dorothy laugh, and they played together all day long. Well, Mocha is dark, but she's not little like Toto. She's about 40 pounds, so she's much bigger than Toto was. But she does like to play all day and makes me laugh. Do you have a dog that you like to play with? Today, though, Dorothy and Toto were not playing. They were on the porch with Uncle Henry as he studied the distant sky. To the north, the clouds were thickening and turning black. Can you see Uncle Henry? And there's Aunt Em in the back washing dishes. And Dorothy's holding Toto as they look out into the sky. Suddenly, Uncle Henry stood up. "There's a tornado coming, Em," he called out to his wife. "Quick!" Dorothy cried Em. "To the storm cellar!" Toto was frightened. He ran and hid under Dorothy's bed. Dorothy ran to catch him while Aunt Em and Uncle Henry climbed down into the cellar. At last, Dorothy had Toto in her arms. But before she could get to the cellar, the storm struck. The wind shook the house so hard that Dorothy fell to the floor, and then something very strange happened. First, the little house spun around 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Then it began to rise up in the air. Up, up, To the top of the storm the little house flew. It was very, very dark inside the storm. The wind howled and whined. Toto was frightened, and he ran around the room barking loudly. But Dorothy just sat still, waiting to see what would happen. Then all of a sudden the house landed with a jolt. Dorothy jumped up and ran to the open door. And what a wonderful sight she saw. The tornado had carried the house to a strange and beautiful land. There were flowers everywhere. Huge trees hung heavy with ripe fruit. Brightly colored birds fluttered from branch to branch. What a sight for a little girl from the flat, gray plains of Kansas. Are any of our friends out there in Kansas? If you are, hello. Hello in Kansas. As Dorothy stood in the doorway, 3 men and an old woman came up to her. They were no taller than children, but they were grown-ups all the same. The old woman, dressed all in white, was the first to speak. "Welcome to the land of the Munchkins," she said. "We thank you for having the house fall on the Wicked Witch of the East." See the Munchkins? And there's the lady all in white. "But there must be some mistake," said Dorothy. "I'm Dorothy, and I'm from Kansas, and I've never heard anything in my life." "But look, my dear," said the old woman. She showed Dorothy 2 feet sticking out from under a corner of the house. "Oh, my!" said Dorothy. "What shall we do now?" "Why, nothing," replied the old woman. "She was a very wicked witch. The Munchkins are glad to be rid of her at last." "Are you a Munchkin?" Dorothy asked. "Oh, no, my dear," said the old woman. "These are Munchkins," she nodded at the 3 men at her side. "I am the Witch of the North," she said. "A witch?" said Dorothy, taking a big step backward. "Are you really a witch?" "Yes, but I am a good witch," she said. "You see, there are 4 witches here in the land of Oz. The witches of the East and West are wicked, but the witches of the North and South are good. Now, thanks to you, there is only 1 wicked witch left." Just then one of the Munchkins let out a tiny scream. The wicked witch was shriveling up. Only her ruby red shoes were left. The good witch of the North picked up the shiny red shoes. Then she handed them to Dorothy. "These belong to you now," she said. "They have great power in them, and they will bring you good luck." "But how do I get home to Kansas?" Dorothy asked the witch. "I miss my Aunt Em and my Uncle Henry." Tears began to roll down her cheeks. Soon the kind-hearted Munchkins were crying too. "You must go to the Emerald City," said the good witch of the North. "That's the home of the Wizard of Oz. Perhaps he can help you." "But how do I get to the Emerald City?" Dorothy asked. "Just follow the road made of yellow bricks," said the witch. "You can't miss it." The witch gave Dorothy a kiss on her forehead. Then she spun around 3 times and was gone. Dorothy tried on the pretty ruby shoes. To her surprise, they fit perfectly. It was just as if they had been made for her. With Toto close behind, Dorothy started down the yellow brick road toward the Emerald City. After walking a few miles, Dorothy stopped to rest near a cornfield. Not far away she saw a scarecrow perched high on a pole. As Dorothy stared at his painted face, the scarecrow winked at her. "That's strange," she thought. "The scarecrows in Kansas don't wink." Then the scarecrow nodded to her. "Good day," he said. "How do you do?" Dorothy replied. "Not well at all," said the scarecrow sadly. "It's awful being stuck up here all day and night. Do you take me down off of this pole? Can you see the scarecrow?" "Scarecrows are in the fields to scare the crows away so they don't eat our crops." Dorothy reached up and lifted the Scarecrow down. Thank you very much, said the Scarecrow happily. It feels so much better to have my feet on the ground. Who are you, and where are you going? I'm Dorothy, said the girl. I'm going to the Emerald City. The Great Wizard of Oz is going to send me back to Kansas. Where is Emerald City? Asked the Scarecrow. And who is this Wizard of Oz? Why, you live here, said Dorothy with surprise. Don't you know? No, I don't know anything at all, said the Scarecrow sadly. You see, I have no brains. Oh, I'm very sorry, said Dorothy. Why don't you come along with me? Maybe the wizard can give you some. Why don't scarecrows have brains? 'Cause they're made of straw. What a wonderful idea, said the Scarecrow. So Dorothy, the Scarecrow, and Toto set off down the road together. The Scarecrow often fell into holes in the road. He didn't have brains enough to look where he was going, but no matter. He never hurt himself because he was stuffed with straw. As they walked on, there were fewer and fewer farms. The countryside became wilder and dark. They found themselves in a forest. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be in a forest when it's getting dark out, would you? Suddenly, they were startled by the sound of a deep groan. Dorothy and the Scarecrow took a few steps into the forest. Dorothy saw something shiny ahead. They went to a spot where some light fell between the thick branches. They found a huge tree that had been nearly chopped in two. Next to the tree stood a strange-looking man all made of tin. He held an axe high over his head, ready to chop. But he stood perfectly still. Did you groan? Dorothy asked the Tin Man. Yes, he replied. I've been groaning for over a year. You're the first to hear me. Please help me. I am rusted so badly that I can't move. Would you oil my joints? So Dorothy took the Tin Man's oil can. One by one, she oiled each of his joints. With a big sigh of relief, the Tin Man put down his axe. I might have stood here forever, said the Tin Man. How did you happen to pass by? The Scarecrow and I are on our way to Emerald City, said Dorothy. I'm going to ask the wizard to send me back to Kansas. And I, said the Scarecrow, am going to ask for some brains. Do you think the wizard could give me a heart? Asked the Tin Man. He thumped the left side of his chest, where a heart should be. You see? Hollow. How can I love someone without a heart? See, there's the Tin Man. I'm sure the wizard can help, said Dorothy. Come along with us. So the Tin Man put his axe over his shoulder, and all three started down the yellow brick road together. Toto followed, barking at the Tin Man's shiny heels. Before long, the forest became so thick that the Tin Man had to clear a path with his axe. There were strange noises, too. Dorothy's heart beat faster and faster. Suddenly, there was a terrible roar. Out onto the road jumped a huge lion. One blew off his mighty paws, sent the Scarecrow flying into a ditch. Another swing sent the Tin Man clattering down on the bricks. Brave little Toto ran barking toward the huge beast. The lion opened his mouth ready to bite the dog, but Dorothy rushed forward. She slapped the lion's nose just as hard as she could. Don't you dare bite Toto, she cried. Shame on you, you big beast, like you biting a poor little dog. But I didn't bite him, said the lion. He rubbed his sore nose with his paw. But you tried to, said Dorothy angrily. You're nothing but a big coward. You're right, said the lion. The king of beasts shouldn't be a coward, said the scarecrow, getting back on his feet. I know, said the lion. He wiped a tear from his eye with the end of his tail. It makes my life very unhappy. Whenever there's danger, my heart beats fast. You should be glad you have a heart at all, said the Tin Man. See, there's the lion, and he's wiping away the tear with his tail. Do you want brains, said the scarecrow. I guess so, replied the lion, but I've never looked to see. Well, we're off to see the great Wizard of Oz, said the scarecrow. I'm going to ask him for some brains. If he's a clever enough wizard to give me some, he can certainly find some courage for you. Then if you don't mind, I'll come along too, said the lion, and off they went down the yellow brick road together. And then the lion said, You know, this is the land of the Caladas. What are the Caladas? Dorothy asked. They're huge beasts, said the lion. They have bodies like bears and heads like tigers. They could tear us in two. I'm terribly afraid. Just then the travelers came to a deep ditch. It was too wide to jump across, and its sides were too steep for climbing down one side and up the other. It looked like the journey to the Emerald City had come to an end. But the scarecrow had an idea. That big tree close to the ditch, he said. The Tin Man can chop it down. It will fall across the ditch. Then we can use it as a bridge. That's very smart, said the lion. I think you've got some brains in your head already. So the Tin Man cut down the big tree. But just as they were ready to cross the ditch, they heard a fierce growl. Running right toward them were two horrible beasts. Caladas! Cried the lion, shaking his fear. Quickly, Dorothy and Toto crossed over the ditch. The Tin Man and the Scarecrow followed. The lion was very afraid, but he stayed behind to face the danger. He gave such a loud roar that the Caladas stopped short. The lion quickly crossed over the ditch, but the Caladas started to follow. We're finished, said the lion, but I'll fight them as long as I can. Then the Scarecrow had another idea. He told the Tin Man to chop away the end of the tree just as the two Caladas were nearly crossed the ditch. The tree crashed down. The Caladas smashed to bits on the sharp rocks below. Meeting up with Caladas made the travelers walk much faster than before. In no time at all, they were out of the woods. But now, directly in their path, was a broad, deep river. They could see the yellow brick road on the other side, but how would they get there? Easy, said the Scarecrow. The Tin Man builds a raft. Lucky for them, the Tin Man has an axe, so he can chop down trees and make things to help them on their travels. The Scarecrow and the Tin Man used long poles to push the raft across the river, but near the middle the current became very strong. The raft began to drift downstream away from the yellow brick road. The Scarecrow pushed so hard on his poles that it got stuck in the muddy river bottom, but he didn't have brains enough to let go of it, so he found himself stuck on a pole in the middle of the river. That's never fun. Goodbye, he called to the others sadly. They were very sorry to leave him. The Tin Man began to cry, but he dried his tears quickly so he wouldn't rust. Maybe I can swim to shore pulling the raft with me, said the lion, so he jumped into the river. The others held on to his tail as he swam. Soon the raft was safely on the far shore. The travelers walked back along the riverbank toward the yellow brick road. Soon they came to the place where the Scarecrow was stuck in the river. Just then a kind stork flew by. Seeing the problem, she knew just what to do. The stork flew out to the Scarecrow. She picked him up with her powerful claws, and in less than a minute he was on the riverbank hugging his old friends. The travelers had many thanks for the stork's good deed. As the travelers walked along the riverbank, they came to a field of flowers. Now, these weren't ordinary flowers. They had a very sweet scent, and anyone who smells the flowers sleeps on and on. But Dorothy and Toto didn't know this. Soon they grew very tired and fell fast asleep. I think they also needed to take a little nap because they had quite the adventure so far down the yellow brick road. If we leave Dorothy here, she'll sleep forever, said the Lion. In fact, I can hardly keep my eyes open. The Scarecrow and the Tin Man were made of straw and metal. The flowers didn't make them sleepy, but the Lion was in great danger. Run fast, cried the Scarecrow. Get away from the flowers as fast as you can, because the flowers would make him sleepy. The Lion bounded off and was soon out of sight. The Tin Man and the Scarecrow carried Dorothy and her little dog Toto towards the flowers. Then they came upon the Lion fast asleep. We can't help you, Lion, said the Tin Man sadly. You're too heavy for us to carry. Perhaps in your dreams you'll find some courage. The Tin Man and the Scarecrow laid Dorothy down by the riverside. Soon a fresh breeze would wake them. If only we could help the Lion, said the Scarecrow. The Tin Man was about to reply when a beast came running toward them. It was a yellow wildcat, and it was chasing a tiny field mouse. The Tin Man felt sorry for the little mouse, so he raised his axe in the air. As the wildcat ran by, he chopped down his axe onto the ground with a powerful blow. Thank you ever so much, said the mouse. I am the queen of the field mice. You have done a great deed. Is there anything my subjects and I can do for you in return? The Scarecrow had been trying to think, but his head was full of straw. Nevertheless, he had an idea. Small as you are, he told the Queen, you can save the lion. A lion? Cried the Queen. He would eat us up. Oh, no, said the Scarecrow. The lion's too much of a coward. He's very nice. He would never do that. Call all the mice in the field. Tell them to come here at once and have each mouse bring a piece of string. Here's how the Scarecrow's plan saved the lion from the flower field. First, the Tin Man built a wooden cart with wooden wheels. Then each mouse was tied to the cart with string. The mice pulled, the Scarecrow and the Tin Man pushed. Finally, the mouse-drawn cart carried the lion out of the flowers. And look at that. Those little mice did. It wasn't long before all the travelers were back together on the yellow brick road. The road was smooth now, and there were farms along it with green fences. Little green houses dotted the countryside, and there was a bright green glow in the distance. That must be the Emerald City, said Dorothy happily. At last they came to a high green wall with a gate. There was a bell next to the gate. Dorothy rang it, and the gate slowly swung open. Before them stood a guard dressed from head to toe in green. Why have you come to the Emerald City? Asked the guard. To see the wizard, said Dorothy's reply. Few have ever seen the great wizard face to face, said the guard. He probably won't want to see you, but I will take you to his place anyway. First, you must put on glasses. He opened a large box. In it were eyeglasses of all sizes and shapes. Each pair had green glass in its frame. Without these glasses, the brightness of the city would blind you, said the guard. I will lock a pair on each of you. Only I have the key to unlock them. Can you see they're putting the glasses on? What a beautiful sight it is! The streets were paved with green marble. Along them were tall green houses. Emeralds were everywhere. They sparkled in the bright green sunlight. In the stores, children bought green popcorn and green lemonade, and they paid with green coins. The guard led Dorothy and her friends right up to the front of the door of the wizard's place. There stood a soldier with a long green beard. These strangers, said the guard to the soldier, have come to see the wizard. The soldier went inside. He was gone a very long time, but at last He returned. The great Wizard of Oz will see you in his throne room, said the soldier. First, the soldier led Dorothy and her friends through a long hallway. It was full of people talking to each other and waiting. The wizard had refused to see each and every one of them. But Dorothy and her friends were taken to the door of the throne room. They opened it and walked right in. They found themselves in a large round room with a very high ceiling. The walls and floors were covered with sparkling emeralds, and in the center of the ceiling was a light as bright as the sun. In the middle of the room stood a great throne made of green marble. In the center of it floated a huge bald head. There was no body to hold it up. It had no legs, no arms. Slowly the giant head turned toward Dorothy. Then with a deep and powerful voice it spoke. I am Oz, the great and terrible. Who are you? What do you want of me? I am Dorothy. With a smile and meek she replied. Please send me back to Kansas. I'm sure Aunt Em is worried sick by now. Next the head turned to the scarecrow. Who are you? It asked. And what do you want of me? I am only a scarecrow stuffed with straw, he replied. I would like you to give me some brains so I can think. The head asked the same question of the Tin Man. I am a wood chopper made of tin, he said. I would like you to give me a heart so I can love others. And finally the head questioned the lion. I am a cowardly lion, he replied. If you give me some courage, I could be king of beasts. The wizard then spoke again. Here is my answer. I will send the girl back to Kansas. I will give the scarecrow brains. I will give the Tin Man a heart, and I will give the lion courage. But you must do something for me in return. You must get rid of the Wicked Witch of the West. But we can't, cried Dorothy. I heard that you got rid of one witch, but there's still another one left in the land of Oz. I will grant your wishes after this task, but not before. With that, the wizard left Dorothy and her friends in the room alone. And I think I'm going to end there. We'll have to find out if Dorothy gets back to Kansas, if the lion finally gets courage, if the Tin Man earns his heart so he can learn to love others, and if the scarecrow gets some brains, because right now he's just filled with straw. I hope so far you've enjoyed reading The Wizard of Oz with me. Don't forget to check out other activities for Get Your Play online. Have yourself a wonderful evening, and I look forward to finishing reading and finding out what happens to Dorothy and her friends in The Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum in another bedtime session. Take care and have yourselves a wonderful evening. Good night, everyone.